Hello everybody, welcome to Travel Faithfully. I'm in Wittenberg. This is Pastor Megan Rohrer, and I'm at the doors where Martin Luther hung the 95 Theses. Now, if you think that's an easy thing to do, try to come up with 95 things you're mad at the church about. I lose steam about 35. It's a lot. These doors, however, aren't about the particular 95 things that Martin Luther was mad about, because the Catholic Church has since repented from them. It was about starting a snowball at the top of the hill of reformation, of saying that there's other ways to see God, that you don't have to look at God through the eyes of only the way the Pope tells you to, that ordinary people can have access to the Bible and they can read it in their own language, and in fact they should be allowed to read. And then that trickles down to other ideas about who's excluded and why. Can that be possible if God says all people are saved? Luther says, you can't make God a liar, so you better bend your brain to figure out how those you hate aren't hated by God. So here's the top of the church. 9-story climb later, where you can see all of Wittenberg on that side, and the church bells on this side. Now, who knows if Martin Luther ever made this climb, but what's interesting about it, I think, aside from the fact that I walked a really long way, is that it would be a great place to sit and ponder and make a sermon. So if you're not aware of what happens when a pastor writes a sermon, they think about the people who attend their congregation. They think about what's going on in their lives. They pray for them. They read the Bible, thinking about not only what's going on in the news and what's going on in the world, but what's going on in the households of the people who attend their congregation. And I like to imagine Martin Luther hanging out up here, pondering the lives of the people who were going to hear his sermons and who were going to think about his prayers and who were going to read what he was writing. Because it's a great way to remember that when you're preaching the Word of God, it's not all about you. It's this much about you and this much about those who are going to hear the Word of God proclaimed in that church on that day. And so this is a great place to write a sermon if you're Martin Luther, but it's also a great place to think about how one tiny little town relative to Germany can change the whole world. And what would happen if we thought about our sermons being heard the entire way through, let alone changing the whole world? It can be really hard if you're a pastor of a tiny congregation where it feels like you're not even certain if anyone's going to come that day. Why would you meditate on a sermon if you don't even know the people from any of these houses are going to show up? And so sometimes what I'll do is I'll think about all the things that could possibly be preached that day and then preach the sermon that is needed for those who actually do show up. So I don't write my sermons, I preach them to those who show up. They also get recorded, so they get also shared with people who don't show up. That's a new dimension. But I guess what I'm trying to say in a bit of a rambly way, it's what happens when a pastor climbs 9 flights of stairs and then tries to make logical sense, is that the Word of God is for you individually. The Word of God is for the community around you and all of the people around you. As far as the bell can toll the good news, may it do so. And so there are times when the Word of God is your word, and when it's the community's word, and when it's for the person who desperately and longingly is praying for God's words to be spoke to them at that day and that hour. And so be kind. When you read the Bible, think not only about what it means for your particular life, but for the world around you. And when your pastor preaches a sermon that maybe doesn't speak to you, ask them questions later. Should I pray for more things because this didn't resonate with me and I don't know who in the community this is for? And sometimes you might learn that there's something going on you didn't expect in your neighborhood. Okay. All right, I'm going to climb back down 9 flights of stairs. I hope you all are having a fantastic day. Take some time to read the Bible if you can.